All right, let's talk about something that every business is swimming in these days: data. We've got dashboards, reports, analytics, you name it. But here's the real question: is all that information actually helping us build a better business? Or is it just a collection of numbers that makes us feel good? Today, we're going to figure out how to cut through the noise and measure what truly matters. So let me just ask you this straight up. How healthy is your business, really? I mean, take a second and actually think about it. It sounds like such a simple question, right? But with all the data we're constantly being bombarded with, the real answer can get completely buried. We get so caught up chasing numbers that look impressive on a slide deck, but in reality, they don't actually move the needle on what's important. So, here's how we're going to tackle this. This is our roadmap from confusion to clarity. First, we're going to talk about the allure of vanity, why we get so easily distracted by feel-good numbers. Then, we'll get to the good stuff, finding your actionable truth. After that, we'll walk through the journey of a business, starting with stage 1, finding product market fit, and then moving on to stage 2, scaling your business. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with a framework for what matters, so you can keep your eye on the prize. Sound good? Let's dive in. Okay, first things first, we have to address the biggest trap that almost everyone falls into at some point. It's this magnetic pull towards data that, it sparkles, it looks great, but it doesn't actually show you the way forward. This is what we call the allure of vanity. Here's the best way to think about it. On one side, you have your feel-good numbers. This is your highlight reel, right? It's the stuff you'd tell your mom about, the big, impressive stats, like your total number of downloads or your follower count. But on the other side, you have the numbers that actually drive decisions. This isn't the highlight reel. This is the game tape. It's the nitty-gritty data that shows you exactly what went wrong on that last play and what you need to fix for the next one. One makes you feel good, the other one actually makes you better. So let's put a formal definition on it. What exactly is a vanity metric? Well, it's a number that's all sizzle and no steak. It looks fantastic on the surface, but when you try to use it to make a decision, there's nothing there. It doesn't tell you what to do next. It's basically the junk food of the data world. It gives you a quick rush, but it has zero nutritional value for building a strong, healthy business. Let's name and shame some of the usual suspects, shall we? Social media followers? Great. But how many of them are actually customers or even potential customers? You can literally buy followers, so that number can be meaningless. Total app downloads? That's like a restaurant bragging about how many people looked at the menu outside, not how many came in and ate. Page views? A huge number of page views could just mean your users are lost and clicking around in circles trying to find something. Total registered accounts? Come on, that's like a gym counting every single person who ever signed up for a free trial, even if they never came back after day 1. And yeah, even the number of press releases you've sent out, it shows activity, sure, but not impact. The entrepreneur Eric Ries just nailed it with this quote. Vanity metrics, good for feeling awesome, bad for action. And that is the absolute core of the problem. They give you this false sense of security. You're looking at your charts going up and to the right, feeling awesome, all while you could be steering your ship directly into an iceberg without even realizing it. So if we're supposed to ignore the highlight reel, where do we look? What should we be focusing on? Well, this brings us to the hero of our story today, the actionable metric. An actionable metric is your compass. It's not there to impress anyone. It's there to tell you exactly where you are and which direction you need to head next. It's all about making real, tangible progress. It's the kind of data that basically whispers in your ear, hey, you know that thing you tried last week? It worked. Let's do a lot more of that. Or, that feature we just launched? Nobody's using it. We need to figure out why. That's an actionable metric. Okay, so how can you tell the difference? How do you spot a vanity metric hiding in plain sight? Well, here is your secret weapon. It's a super simple 3-question litmus test. Let's break this down. First, look at a number and ask yourself, can I use this to make a specific decision to improve my business? For instance, knowing you have 10,000 total downloads is kind of useless, but knowing that 70% of users drop off during step 3 of your onboarding process, now that is actionable. You can immediately go and try to fix step 3. See the difference? Second, ask, can I consistently and intentionally reproduce this result? Getting a one-time traffic spike because a celebrity mentioned you is amazing, but it's not a repeatable strategy. A better metric is your conversion rate from a specific ad campaign, because that's a process you can control, measure, and improve over and over again. And finally, number 3, is this data real? Is it a true reflection of reality? The number of social media followers can be faked. The number of paying customers who renew their subscription month after month, that's about as real as it gets. If a metric passes all 3 of these questions, my friend, you've found yourself an actionable truth. All right, now let's put all this theory into practice. We're going to follow the typical journey of a business right from the very beginning. I'm talking about day 1. Before you have any fancy spreadsheets or dashboards, you have to answer one single, incredibly important question. Have you actually built something that a group of people desperately wants? This is the legendary quest for product market fit. In these super early days, your most valuable metrics aren't numbers at all. You need to get out of the office and actually talk to real, live human beings. Your first source of data is qualitative. It comes from conversations. You're looking for the stories, the pain points, the frustrations that people have. You're listening for those aha moments when they describe their problem. Your goal should be to have 10, maybe 20 of these deep one-on-one interviews. Only after you've heard these stories can you start to quantify what you've learned with one very, very specific question. And this is the magic number. This benchmark comes from the startup genius Sean Ellis, and it is beautiful. You send a survey to your very first users, and you ask them one simple question. How would you feel if you could no longer use our product? And you give them 3 options. Very disappointed, somewhat disappointed, or not disappointed. If at least 40% of your users answer very disappointed, then you've probably done it. You've likely found product market fit. This is the clearest signal you can get in the early days that you're truly onto something big. So once you've hit that 40% benchmark, the game changes. You've proven that you have a product people really want. Now it's time to build a real business around it. This is the moment you shift gears from searching for a business model to executing and growing one. And this new stage requires a whole new set of metrics to guide you. Let's get into them. Okay, first up is the undisputed king of SaaS metrics, monthly recurring revenue, or MRR. I want you to think of MRR as the heartbeat of your business. It's that predictable, reliable stream of income that shows up in your bank account every single month from your subscribers. For a subscription business, this is the foundation that everything else is built on. It's what allows you to plan, to hire, and to grow with confidence. And the best part is, the math is incredibly straightforward. You just take your total number of customers and multiply it by the average amount they pay you each month. So in this example, if you have 100 customers, each paying you an average of $200 a month, your MRR is a healthy $20,000. Simple as that. And what's really powerful here is that you now have 2 clear ways to grow that number. You can either get more customers, or you can find ways to get your existing customers to pay you more. It's a beautiful thing. Now, for every hero, there must be a villain. And in the world of SaaS, the ultimate villain is churn. Churn is the silent killer. I'm not being dramatic, it really is. It's what's known as the leaky bucket problem. You can be working your tail off to pour new customers into the top of the bucket, but if you've got a hole in the bottom where customers are leaving, you'll never, ever fill it up. A 5% monthly churn rate sounds small, right? But that means in a year, you have to replace 60% of your customer base just to break even. It's a death by 1,000 cuts. So how do you measure it? You take the number of customers who canceled during a period, say a quarter, and you divide it by the number of customers you had at the very start of that quarter. So here, 13 lost customers out of 200 means you have a 6.5% quarterly churn rate. So what's a good churn rate? Well, for most SaaS businesses, you really want your monthly churn to be under 5%. The absolute best-in-class companies get that number down to 1 or 2%. And believe me, every single tenth of a percentage point you can shave off of your churn is a massive win. Okay, so we know how much money is coming in each month with MRR, and we know how much is leaking out with churn. The next logical question is, what is a customer actually worth to us over their entire relationship with our company? That's customer lifetime value, or LTV. It's basically your business's crystal ball. It predicts the total amount of revenue you can expect to make from a single average customer before they churn. Let's break down how you find this number. You take the average value of a purchase, multiply that by how often they make a purchase, and then multiply all of that by how long the average customer sticks around. So in this example, a customer who pays $200 twice a month and stays for 6 months has a lifetime value of $2,400. Knowing this number is a total game changer because it tells you exactly how much you can responsibly afford to spend to go out and get a new customer. And that leads us perfectly into our last big scaling metric, customer acquisition cost, or CAC. Simply put, this is your price tag for growth. You take every single dollar you spent on sales and marketing in a given period, odds, salaries, tools, everything, and you divide it by the number of new customers you brought in during that same period. This number tells you, point blank, how much it costs to acquire one new paying customer. So let's say you spent $200,000 on sales and marketing last quarter, and you got 500 new customers. Your CAC is $400. Now, for the moment of truth, this is where it all comes together. The golden ratio, the magic number for a healthy, sustainable SaaS business, is 3 to 1. Your customer lifetime value should be at least 3 times your customer acquisition cost. So let's look at our example. We have an LTV of $2,400 and a CAC of $400. That's a 6 to 1 ratio. That is fantastic. That is a business that isn't just healthy, it has a license to print money. It means for every dollar you put into your growth engine, you get $6 back. This is the fundamental equation for sustainable growth. We've covered a lot of individual metrics, and it can be a lot to keep track of. But it's not just about tracking numbers in a spreadsheet. It's about having a system that connects those numbers to your company's biggest goals. This is where a framework comes in handy. You might have heard of one called OKRs, which stands for Objectives and Key Results. It's a really simple but powerful way to make sure everyone is on the same page. Your objective is your big, ambitious goal, something like become the #1 solution in our industry. Then, your key results are the metrics that prove you're actually doing it. Key results like reduce monthly churn to below 2% or improve our LTV to CAC ratio to 4 to 1. This kind of framework connects the daily work to the big picture, making sure all those metrics we just talked about are actually driving you toward your ultimate destination. At the end of the day, all of your data, all of these numbers, they're telling a story about your business. The only question is, are you listening to the right one? Are you getting distracted by the vanity metrics that just make you feel good in the short term? Or are you digging in and focusing on the actionable truths that will actually make your business better in the long run? The choice, as they say, is yours. Now go out there and start measuring what really, truly matters. Thanks for tuning in.